I'm Anuradha T.K. I retired from ISRO as Distinguished Scientist, and my last office held was Director SATCOM Programme at ISRO Headquarters. I joined ISRO in 1982, November, and it has been an exciting journey for me till my superannuation. And those were the very exciting days when I joined, as there were parallelly several things going on. One was that we had to get a hold on our rocketry, and we had the SLV phase was over and we were moving on ASLV. We had to make our SROS satellites for that on one hand. And on the other hand, we were already poised to start with the operational satellite, IRS-1A, having already worked on Aryabhatta and Bhaskara 1, Bhaskara 2, and Apple. We had gained a lot of confidence in making the operational satellite now, and we were trying to do the operational satellite. That is when I joined the then ISRO Satellite Center for the operational satellite, IRS-1A. And when I joined as part of spacecraft checkout, where we validate the satellite through different phases of its assembly, integration, and then putting it with the vehicle, mating it with that, and all the operations required at the launch pad, and then be there till the launch. And our connections were there till the end, and that was very exciting as youngsters for us. And that was the first operational satellite. We had a lot of new things to do for this satellite compared to what we did for the earlier, small satellites, what we had built. So it was an exciting thing that is even as part of the satellite testing, we had to make end-to-end, understand the subsystem, what to test, and what are the test systems we have to develop, and how to interface. And in fact, it is so exciting even today to think of it, that there was a lot of crunch for the FE. And just using simple I/O devices, we would make our own interface bus, and try to bring in automation in testing and develop, the test plan and procedures. Part of the computer system, we had PDP-11 computers, and later on we went to bigger computers. And that was a learning journey, and I was part of it from the beginning for the operational satellites. And then our journey went with, at least my journey, went with the realization of IRS satellites as IRS-1A, 1B, 1C, and each one was very unique. IRS-1A, after the launch, we had great experiences at the control center, ISTRAC, that every orbit the satellite went to, we learned something new. We learned what not to do and what should have been done, and how to mitigate the problems we had. And we had great experts, and just watching them and learning from them was a great, phenomenal experience for me. And Dr. Goyal was there from controls, Dr. Alex was there, he was taking care of sensors, and my own spacecraft checkout division head, Mr. Dharma was there, and all were stalwarts. And, not much different. They might have been just 10, 12 years elder to us when we started that journey. And learning from them, who had worked on the basics, was something great, really. And IRS-1B, when we came, I would always call that as a perfect satellite. Whatever we learned from IRS-1A, we made it happen in 1B. So India got into the remote sensing area. And we all know about that. I don't have to repeat to you why we were doing remote sensing satellites. It was one of the mainstreams where we had to bring in societal applications for agriculture, forestry, and all kinds of resource management for the country. And knowing the end use was something, it was very exciting. We are working as nut and bolt of the big picture. That was the thing. And IRS-1C we came. We had the first time we started using processor systems, and it was a new experience altogether. And we had, as a backup, we had the hardware systems also and processor systems also. It was like, having two satellites in one satellite, trying to do a lot of things. And IRS-1C, 1D. And those were the time India became the best satellite for civilian purposes in remote sensing. We could get less than 5 meter resolution, and we could do that. And then the most exciting part came when that was post-Kargil. We had to bring in a satellite for keeping an eye on the border. And we had a big sanction because of Pokhran 2. That was when we had to bring in a satellite, technology experiment satellite. What a challenge it was. Almost 10, 11 new technologies were all made at home at URSC and other centers of ISRO. And we made it happen, albeit it was a delay of 8-10 months from what we thought we would do it, but we made our own systems. Fantastic ideas like step and stare algorithm, which was brought in, or, the first time phased array antenna, what we brought in. Everything, including the control system, it had a new momentum wheel configuration to get better torque on the satellite. So many new things. And the camera, the main part of the satellite, it had mirrors, in the axis and on-axis mirrors, and we could get better than 1 meter resolution. That was a fantastic feat, and I'm very proud to be part of that program always. And then we moved on to, that actually formed a kind of basis for all our future remote sensing satellites. Then I had the privilege for working on Cartosat-1, which had another unique feature that it could give a 3D, imaging of the Earth, and a fantastic, system which was based on all our experiences, what we had learned. And I was getting more and more into remote sensing in various, positions. I was a test engineer. Then I became a project manager. And then I became a deputy project director. At that point of time, I had a change. Then I was moved as another exciting program of ISRO, navigation program. We all have heard about GPS satellites all the time when we are using the navigation. But India too built, we must be aware, many people may not be knowing, we have our own navigation system. We called it as Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, IRNSS. At that point of time, we planned to have 7 satellites so that India and 1,500 kilometers all around, we should be able to monitor. And when we were doing that, I went there as associate project director. I was there as part of the configuration definition and bringing out the final configuration document, etc. It was fantastic to learn about the new concepts, again, something totally different from what I had been doing from remote sensing. It was more towards project management I was moving, and learning about the atomic clocks, the significance of atomic clock, and how the atomic clock has to sit in the satellite, a lot of constraints. And it cannot have too much temperature variation. It should not have too much of vibration. It's so many aspects. And trying to build a satellite that way was a great experience. And by the time the configuration was completed, then I had my first project as the project director for a communication satellite. So that way, somehow, I was lucky that I could be part of remote sensing, navigation, and communication satellites. Once I went into communication, I continued there. I had few satellites to be made as project director. And each satellite was, again, very exciting. The first project was GSAT-12, where that was the first communication satellite we made in a 1,000 kg class, because we wanted to put it on PSLV and take it there. That was a challenge because we were used to huge communication satellites. We have not made a tiny communication satellite. And, scaling down has its own challenges always. We could make it successfully and the launch was successful. And then I had GSAT-10. Just a year after, or 2 years after the GSAT-12, we had to launch it. Already there was a project director who moved to some other position and I took over. So when I went there, it was another huge task. for that day, GSAT-10 was the biggest satellite we had ever done. And it also had dual graded reflectors for the first time, and how to test those reflectors and being part of how it is being made. It was amazing experience. It was fantastic. And I had to experience launching the GSAT-10 from a foreign soil, where we launched it from Kourou, South America. And I went there as a team leader. And first time I realized the responsibility on my shoulder when there were no other seniors around me and I had to manage, for me personally, it meant prestige of India, prestige of ISRO, that we should not bring any defect to that. And we had to work to that. And it was very, I took it very seriously to do that happen. There was a team and you are the team leader for whatever problem, they'll be looking at you. And there is the team from Arianespace who need all explanations from the team leader. That was me from this side. And we had to quickly answer and do those things. And, working in a foreign soil is entirely different. Here, our offices are open 24/7. They're working. We had to take earlier permissions. We had to plan so much ahead. It's not like working here that it's like our own home. So we had a successful launch of GSAT-10 too. And GSAT-10 also had, high power and KU band, etc. It was very nice. And it carried one Gagan payload also. Gagan is GPS-aided, geo-augmented payload, which will take the GPS signals and augment it and then give the precision data. Like that, we have 3 Gagan payloads always in the sky. And learning about it again, I had a little bit of navigation experience, so I could understand what Gagan is doing. And we had a wonderful team, and the teamwork was excellent. And then I moved on to other bigger satellites. We had GSAT-9, 17, 18. It was going on, and GSAT-9 was another exciting thing, a typical example for a change management. It started as something and ended up as something else, except for the fact that it had the same transponders, 12 KU band transponders. And a lot of things changed on it. The scope of the satellite changed. It got changed as SARC-SAT, and we had to give the services to neighboring countries, SARC countries, and 1 transponder each. And then it meant that satellite had to be redesigned, because if you have to beam another countries, your antenna design is different, antenna size will be different, and you had to relook at your structures and mechanisms, etc. We did all that, and most exciting was, for the first time, we put operating electric propulsion system on GSAT-9, SARC-SAT. That was a phenomenal thing, and the kind of things we had to bring in the test setup, and learning about how to mount electric propulsion systems, the electrical requirements, and how to control it in orbit in the mission, because of certain constraints, like, there were some, we were getting thrust in the cross axis also, and how to cancel it. It was so interesting, and teams did a wonderful job of bringing out solution for everything. And of course, in ISRO, there is one thing. It's not just the team or just the project director. It's the strong review mechanism. There are always experts who are always helping us out and reviewing our decisions, our actions, and give us a guidance. That was a great thing we had. And when I was doing all these projects, then I further moved as program director for all the satellites which will be in the geosynchronous orbit. That means I had navigation satellites, which are there, of course, the communication satellites, and of course, the weather monitoring satellites, which were there. All these were under my program. And that was another very interesting phase. I wanted to do something new. And my team took up the challenge of making new platforms where we can put more payload on lesser housekeeping, how to make it more mass efficient, more power efficient. And those configurations were reviewed and accepted. And I understand recently those configurations are being used also. So that was very satisfying. All along, I must say that we had great leaders with us from whom we learned a lot. As I told, when I joined, Professor Rao was a director. And then chairman was Satish Dhawan at the time. And, hearing the stories about them, it's, ISRO culture is like that, that was an era, the early 70s, before we joined, were the foundation era. That foundation era, what all they had done was like listening to Ramayana and Mahabharata to us and trying to understand, grasp the moral of that. Fantastic, phenomenal, in the sense, the kind of diplomacy they had exhibited. Those were legends at the time when we were hearing how we could get the first communication satellite from USA to work in India, with a benefit of not doing over Brazil, but in India. How we were successful, how our leaders could make it happen with a ground station which was built already, and then how our Tumba rocket station came into play, and how we made the INSAT ICC, that coordination committee, INSAT coordination committee, and NNRMS. Why? Because satellites cannot work unless there are applications who are using it. And the way they had made those systems, the way they built the centers all over India, very strategically, all over India they were put. For me, it was always exhilarating to listen to those stories and look at them and talk to them. And they were there with us, we were very lucky in the 80s when we joined. They were there with us to guide us, and we could learn from them directly, not only about technical things, about diplomacy and about management, how to manage people, how to manage technical issues. We learned a lot from them. Extraordinary people. Hats off to them. That's why ISRO is there where it is today. And we were the team who took it forward, and we expanded the concepts what they had. And that expansion went on for a long time. And the dreams of Sarabhai were also met with all possible applications which we can bring to ground. I don't think there is any department which does not use space data today. Whatever department, agriculture or communication, of course, and forestry, mineralogy, everywhere, the defense is extensively using weather monitoring, and we were part of it. That was a kind of proud moment. And when I was doing that and I had my final stint, I moved again to ISRO Headquarters as Director SATCOM. That's when a kind of different scenery opened for me. It was an eye-opener. Oh, it's not just a satellite. I mean, what's happening for the entire space program in India, and how it is linked from Prime Minister to the end user. And I had to be there in the front, connecting these things. That was a wonderful thing. And we planned fantastic satellites, what have to be brought in so that we use the available spectrum and bring the best possible competitive satellites to the nation. Those proposals were also put there when I was there. And we also had interactions with other agencies where, spectrum is bread and butter for satellites. And SATCOM had that onus of managing the space spectrum. And it was very exciting to learn again about the new things and how to negotiate and how other countries are negotiating, how they are dominating, and what we have to do. To tell you frankly, compared to other countries, we had very less number of people who understood the whole thing. In fact, I was not an expert in that. I had a team who were experts. Very few people who understood and appreciated these problems. And to think that for the entire country, that small team is working on it, it was something I don't think any other country would have done such unique things like what our teams have done, putting multiple payloads at single platform and making the best use of spectrum wherever for every slot which was available, negotiating with the foreign nations for how to bring in our satellites there. And also, we knew that our capacity was not really meeting all the requirements. The users whom we started them, to make them use the satellite had become very hard customers. And we had to meet their demands in quantity, quality, compared to any other country. So we had to bring in those kind of factors into our satellite and also see that all the requirements are met by, using the foreign satellites too in a very regulated manner so that we don't lose control on space. And whatever we have learned over so many decades and whatever technology we have adopted, it should not get lost. And that is the way we brought in. And during that time, I was seriously involved in bringing SATCOM policy also. And of course, our Kiran Kumarji, he was heading all these policy matters. And from SATCOM, I was coordinating with him for that. And we had several proposals, what had to be brought in, how to price it, and how to make sure that we are competitive, and how to make sure that, India, no one in India loses out on the technology. At the same time, we should not lose our hold on the space. Very conflicting requirements and, complexities. It was like, we were living there all together all the time. And there was a time I cannot forget is when we really thought we'll stop telemedicine and teleeducation because a lot of optical fibers are there, etc. And from SATCOM, we called for a meeting of secretaries from all the states. Their representatives came. It was so heartening to see. It's not stopping. They wanted more capacity, in fact. In fact, the way it had served the corners of India and the hilly areas was really touching my heart. And when the Integrated Defense Service representative told me, please don't ever stop telemedicine. We are relying on it. Our soldiers are relying on it for immediate medical attentions. And they are there at Himalayan heights. Bringing them back is also risky. They were able to get the medical facilities there. I felt my life was worth living for, being a small link in the whole thing. And it was a great, journey for me throughout with great leaders. And I had good experience with them, great teams with whom I worked, great challenges in every project I had. And the best thing was, from day one to the day of superannuation, I had an opportunity to continuously keep learning about new things. That's what keeps me alive. Even today, I do that, something or the other, I keep learning. And that was fully satisfied there. And what an atmosphere and what a freedom. You can do anything, for the sake of the organization. And everybody will appreciate it. The way it went and leadership or, any higher position was totally meritorious. And it's only based on knowledge. And your promotions are based on knowledge. Leadership is based on knowledge. Fantastic area. And everybody is a gem. And having a team with gems was really a rich experience for me. When I joined in 1982 as an young engineer, a girl of 22 and a half, 23 years, I had so much dreams in my eyes and I joined. Definitely, I had no idea that anybody can be wondering how girls can be doing this job. Because we were full of confidence, brimming with confidence. And when we went there, we saw that there were very few women, of course, who were there. But surprisingly, many people outside ISRO have asked me, how did you feel? How does the organization, look at women there? To tell you frankly, such an idea never came to me in ISRO. Because in ISRO, I never saw anybody seeing separately men and women. It was a task. And the motive you have, the big picture, what you have in front of your eyes, fills everybody with their mind, not with useless thoughts, who is a woman, who is not who is a man, all those things, faltu things will never get into mind because you have a bigger picture and you have to work towards it. Anybody who can contribute are welcome. That was the way we worked. And of course, there were inhibitions in certain groups that, oh, we are working round the clock and extended hours and no holidays, how these girls can manage, and we would prefer not to take. But I really appreciate Mr. Dharma. He would never say any of such thing. And I'm so glad that I joined that area for many reasons, not only because of Mr. Dharma, because I learned a lot which I could not have done otherwise. Because every subsystem, they're deep into their systems and they're not free to change the designs. And everyone ready to change also has to go through a lot of reviews. But here we were free to bring in a lot of new concepts, new hardware, and try. And we had a lot of freedom. Even when we were part of the project work is going on, how we did it, we had total freedom and we could develop ourselves. That was Mr. Dharma. And when we did that, it gave us a lot of confidence. And I never felt that, we were working shoulder to shoulder with men round the clock, whether it is 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, sometimes more than 24 hours. I've been there at office. Total safety and cultured atmosphere because there was a bigger goal in front of us. I don't think anybody had time to think about those things. And finally, when I became the first lady project director, it was nobody ever thought about those things till after the launch. The then chairman, Dr. Radha Krishnan, he made an announcement, first project director, woman project director, and a lot of press, and they're trying to take interviews. I felt so embarrassed, I cannot tell you, because I didn't do anything beyond what my men colleagues had done already. And why so much adulation for me? Because I don't consider I'm different. And when I come back to my office, how can I show my face to all my men colleagues that what did I do extra that they did not do, right? I mean, that was the way ISRO was. And many have asked after a successful launch, when you go back, how do you feel? It's another day for us. We are already with a lot of other work activity piled up, and we'll be attending to that. And such gender issues, and of course, as per the stipulation of Government of India, we have all the things implemented perfect, including a maternity leave, childcare leave, or having a forum to address the grievances of women if there are anything. And I have headed those forums also, and a lot of training programs for women. Those things are there, and but everybody feels good.